All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and we've been going over databases. And I switched gears, so to speak, and have started going over yet another PDF on databases. This one, MySQL by Examples for Beginners. You can see the URL on your screen right now. So far, I've gone through very quickly the summary of the MySQL commands in Section 1. We went through 2.1, creating and deleting a database, and I think I hit everything in there. 2.2, setting the default database, and again, I think I hit everything in there, as in 2.3, creating and deleting a table. We learn how to insert rows with the insert into command, and querying the database using the select statement. So that's pretty much where we left off. What I plan on doing in this set of lectures is going through the rest of Part 2, so 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. For now, I'm going to skip Section 3, and I'm going to jump into and talk about Section 4. All right, and it might seem a little strange doing it in that order, but as always, there's a method to my madness. There really is a reason for doing it that way, and I'll explain it when we get to that point. All right. As the author shows here, and I already have my SQL loaded, if I do a select star from products, you'll notice there's really not much repetition in here. If we look at quantity, for example, there is some repetition because we've got what? An 8,000 here and an 8,000 here. Okay, so if we say select quantity from products, just ask for the quantity. Okay, we can put this in, and you learned this earlier, so we can say order by quantity. And I can do it in descending order, for example. And you see when we do this that we get everything, including any repeats, so to speak. But if instead of saying this, I say select distinct quantity, then notice that rather than getting 6 rows, I only get 5. And what's missing? The extra 8,000. So using the word distinct, and I believe you can only say distinct once. So for instance, I couldn't say select distinct quantity, distinct, I think I'm going to get an error when I do this, price from products. And it just says we have an error. All right, and it corresponds to distinct price. Now, what if I do this? What if I say select distinct quantity price? Well, notice I'm back to 6 again because this 8,000 had $1.25 for its price, and this 8,000 had 49 cents for its price. So distinct is typically used, if I was doing a list of states, so let's say that I had a table where I had people from all over the United States. Maybe not all 50 states, but let's just say several states. And a lot of people from Missouri, and a lot of people from Montana, and a lot of people from Illinois, and a lot of people from West Virginia, etc. If I said select distinct state, it would only show me the first occurrence of every one of those. So that's what distinct does. So as mentioned here, a column may have duplicate values, so you can use distinct to select only one column. It says you can also apply it to several columns to select distinct combinations. Well, there's an example. There's an example. There's an example. Very similar to what I've just showed you. Next is the group by clause. And when you do a group by, as it says, it allows you to collapse multiple records, all right, with a common value into groups. What does that mean? Let's do an example that's a little different from theirs. All right, so if I say select star from products, you know already what this looks like. If I say select count star from products, That gives me 6 because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 records. But it doesn't tell me the type of records that they are. So for instance, I can do a select, and I'm going to watch what I do here. And I'm going to say here, group by product code. So now notice I get 3 and 3. Well, that's not bad, but it's not very telling as far as what that is. So I can say select product code, count from here. Oops. Group by product code. So it tells me that for PEC, I've got 3, and for PEN, I've got 3. Now, if I want to, you know this because we've talked about this earlier, I can come in here and use the alias, so I can say as product code. And I can do an as on here too. How many? And then tell it to do the group by. Okay? So group by is very powerful because it does allow you to group things based on some kind of a criteria. Now, if I, did it here, notice when I did select star, it only shows the first record. Well, that's not really a group by. So it says group by itself is not really meaningful. In order to use group by and have it meaningful, you have to use what are called the aggregate functions. And notice there's count, max, min, average, sum, standard deviation, and group concat. We care most about count, min, max, average, and sum. Now, hopefully what I'm about to say will make sense to you, but taking them, what I've got here in the blue, from the right to the left, sum and average can only be used on numeric values. Min, max, and count can be used on numeric values or on non-numeric values. All right? Now, I just showed you the count star, and I don't have to use a star in there. So, for instance, I can say select count product code from products. And we get 6. Or I can say select count star. All right, and they both give you the same answer. They both give you 6. So what's the difference? All right, see if they explain it here and see if they explain it better than I do. All right. They say it right here, but they give you only a sentence. If you do count star, it shows you the number of rows selected, even if the value of one of those rows is null. If you use count followed by a column name, all right, it counts only non-null. So what does that even mean? Well, I'm going to put a comment in here because I'm not going to run this. But if I said this, let's assume... So let's assume I have a table called employees. Okay? This table has, and I'm not going to put all the fields in there, first name, last name, department, and salary. All right? If when a person is hired, they are given a department to work for, but they are not given a salary, so we're going to assume this. Not if, but let's assume that when a person is hired, they're given a department to work for, but they're not given a salary. So further, we will assume there are 50 employees. each of whom has just been hired. In other words, each of the 50 employees has, well, would make sense, a first name, a last name, a department, but no salary yet. All right? So if I were to enter the query, select count star from employees, I'd get 50 because there's 50 employees. All right. If I said select count department from employees, again, I would get 50 because we're assuming that each employee was put into a department when they were hired. But if I say select count salary from employees, I get 0 because I'm saying those employees have not yet been given a salary. So let's look at some of the things that you can actually do with these functions. I've shown you the count. Now I've kind of talked this one to death almost, but let's just take a look. All right, so let's go back and we'll select star from products. All right, and let's work with, for now, let's work with numeric fields. So let's select the max quantity from products. And I would think that's going to give us 10,000. And it does. How about the min, which should give us 0? And it does. How about the average? And let's play computer before we hit enter here. 5,000 plus 8,000 is 13,000 plus 2,000 is 15,000. And 10,000 is 25,000, and 8,000 is 33,000. So that's our total quantity. 33,000 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have to include this. 6. Well, let's see what we get when we do that. So 33,000 divided by 6. It should give us an average, if I did that correctly, of 5,500. So let's see. And that's what we get. Now you can use min and max on non-numeric fields. You can't use average and you can't use sum. All right, did I do a sum? No, let's do the sum first. Did we? Again, that should be 5, 8, 13, 15. That should be 33,000. So I should be able to select the sum of my quantities. And there we go. Now the reason we got a whole number here and we didn't get one here is that's actually because we did a division. All right, and here we didn't do a division. All right, so again, we can use these on non-numeric fields. I can select not a sum, but I can select the max on product code, for example. And I get pen. The min should give me PEC. But if I try to do, for example, average, I think it's just going to give me a 0 back. I don't think it's going to give me an error. It just gives me 0. But notice 6 warnings. And it's telling me I don't have any idea how to do this because I'm trying to perform an arithmetic calculation on a non-numeric field. All right? But I can come in here and I can say, for example, select, let's use the price. So we'll say sum of prices as sum. I'm only using a single word here, so I don't need to put it in double quotes. Average of price as AVG, min of price as min, max of price as max, and finally let's do a count of price as count. So select that from products. So you can see what I get. The sum of all the prices together, so the sum of all of these together, that's what we're working with. So let's put that in here for just a sec. We'll put that in here separately. Cut this way the hay down. So I've got what? 6 values. 1.23, 1.25, 1.25, 0.48, 0.49, and 0.50. All right? So if we look at these, the sum of all of those is $5.20. The average is $5.20 divided by 6, so it's 86, just about 87 cents. The smallest price is 48, the largest price is 49, and there are 6 total. Now I think I showed you this earlier, but I'm going to come back and run this one more time. So select the sum. The average, let's pretty it up a little. So I'm going to put in here round, and I'm telling it to take the average, but I want it rounded to 2 decimal places. And then we've got min, then max, then count, boom. That's a little bit more pleasing to the palate, so to speak. But that's an example of using sum, average, min, max, and count. All right? So there are several of them in here also. And I did not go over the group concat, which I've never used, and the STD, because most of the time, in most things you do, you probably won't have to worry about standard deviation very much. All right, I'm just about done with this lecture. Let's first do the halving and the roll-up, because that'll get us through this. Halving is kind of similar to where, but typically you use halving with group by. All right, so let's go back and run one of the queries we did before. We did a select star from, let's see, we did a select count star from products, and we said group by product code. And it got 3 and 3. Okay? Well, what if I had several of these? Okay, so in other words, I had, let's just say 50 different products, and they all had different counts. Well, I could put my query in here and say select count from products, group by, but now I could say, for example, having product code equal pen. So notice now I get this. So as you can see, typically using the halving, you usually use halving with group by. And like the where clause without a group by, halving allows you to put some criteria. But it allows you to have criteria based on your groups, where halving gives you, where halving allows you to put in criteria based on grouping or a grouping factor. And the where clause allows you to put in criteria, but on stuff that's not grouped. And when you do this, So we did this before. We did this select star. How about this? What if we do this? Select sum of price from products. You saw this before. All right, 520. But what if we come back and do that same query and we say group by product code? Now it's letting us know that the sum of our pencils was $1.47 and our pens was $3.73. Well, that's not really all that evident from looking at this. So let's select the product code and the sum from products and do our group by. All right. Makes it a little easier to see what's going on. Now again, I could use the alias in here and give them better titles, but that's not what I want to show you. I want to show you this roll up. All right. So I want to add on the bottom with roll up. So I want to run the same query that I just ran, but on the very bottom, I want to put in with roll up. No, I don't want that. That's fine. So I want the product code and a sum of the price from products, group by product code with roll up. So now it's what roll up does is it adds together everything here. It puts null there because this doesn't make any sense. But the product code for our pencils is 147, for our pens is 373, and combined is 520. So again, I'd probably want to pretty that up just a tad. So I'd want to change this to maybe as product code as price of this product. I'll just say product. From products, group by, with roll up. That's a little bit nicer to look at. All right. And with that, we have come to the end of 2.6. So I'm going to go next into modifying data with update in section 2.7, and I'll do that shortly.